My mother came to me and said, do real estate. It's so much fun. My mom didn't have a college degree, and my father was so proud of her and that she went into real estate, was very successful. She started when I was a senior in high school. And I need people, so I needed to have interaction. I just can't be in my home watching over my children.
What advice would you give to attorneys or really professionals that are considering a career pivot like you did?
Well, if you want to do real estate, you have to like people. And you have to want to talk to people all the time because they will call you or text you 24/7. And you live with it. You live with it on vacations. So it depends on what job you're going to pivot to, but make sure that your personality is in tune with the new job that you want to be successful at.
Welcome back to the Collier County Bar Association's podcast, powered by Beyond the Briefcase. I'm your host, Matt Goodwin. And today I'm joined by Catherine McAvoy, who has a unique path where she transitioned from the legal industry to selling real estate in Southwest Florida. And now she's also involved in the community. We'll hear more about that today. As one of the sponsors of the Collier County Bar Association, we look forward to having this conversation. So welcome, Kathy.
Thank you, Matt. It's my pleasure to be here today. I've never done a podcast.
Yeah, well, they say there's a first time for everything, and I'm sure this won't be the last once everybody hears what your story has to say. So before we dive in, I always like to start with something easy. When people meet you today, do they think of you as more of a lawyer or a real estate professional or a community advocate?
I would say a real estate professional. That is where I'm most visible in the community right now. I've been selling for 11 years, and I practiced law here very minimally. But I am still involved in the community. But I have to say, I stopped my community work when I went into real estate in 2015. And, all of that community work kind of had to do with kids in schools, and I transitioned into real estate, learned everything. Well, not everything. I tried to learn everything I could. I got my broker's license, my GRI, and then I felt like I was missing something. So that's when I joined the League Club.
And there's other lawyers in your family, and you're married to one.
My whole family, except for my mother. My father was a federal magistrate in Western New York. He was one of the first magistrates. In 1972, that position was created. He loved his job, and his children saw that. And I had 3 brothers, and we all became lawyers.
Wow, that's more than I thought.
So 4 lawyers, and then 2 of us married lawyers, and then 1 married a lawyer for a second marriage. So we kind of have, and cousins, my uncle, my father practiced with his brother before he became a federal magistrate. So my cousins and my one brother's, I have a few of the spouses have become judges as well. So Buffalo, yeah.
So your family's involvement in the law, I mean, you naturally gravitated toward the practice as a child, as an adult.
I thought I was going to be a doctor. I wanted to be a doctor, and I was really good in math and science in high school. And then I went to Williams College, where I was not so great at math and science, where they weed out people and that are pre-med. So I was pre-med for a year, and then I was a psychology major, thinking about going into, grad school for psychology my senior year. But I took the LSAT my junior year and then again my senior year and decided that was the path. It's a great education. Even if you don't use it, I think a law degree is a great education.
Well, what did that legal education teach you that still shapes how you think today?
Well, it makes you think more about your community. You have to be part of your community. You can't just be an insular person looking out for yourself. So I feel like that was my family, my education, everything kind of brought that together.
Was there something about the legal specialty or the legal field that you particularly loved?
Well, I loved criminal practice. When when I did go into law. My father, though, I mean, he just loved he loved being a judge. He was known as being very fair. He didn't wear a robe. He didn't, he didn't need all of the accessories. He was a very fair man. So I wanted to be like him.
Okay. Well, what skills from your legal background are you still using today?
Well, I read contracts. I read all of them. I read them word for word, and I try to understand them. And if I don't, I ask an attorney that's currently practicing, because I'm not supposed to be practicing law. So even though I still have my law degree, and I feel like I'm actually practicing law in my day-to-day contract work, but I'm only doing it to the extent that a realtor can do.
And that's because you're an inactive, even though you still have your license, you still have continuing education requirements.
I still am active, actually. You don't want to go inactive status, but I just can't hold myself out as practicing.
Interesting.
Right.
Well, I haven't, it's been many years until I make that transition from a non-practicing or an inactive attorney, but I didn't realize what that looks like. I thought as a licensed attorney, you could actually give legal advice when you're filling out real estate contracts.
Well, I could if I weren't affiliated with Premier Sotheby's.
Ah,
But
okay.
because I am affiliated with another broker, I am a broker, but I'm a broker associate affiliated with Sotheby's. So I cannot hold myself out as practicing
So
law.
is that a broker specific
Yeah, I
restriction?
mean, the errors and omissions insurance doesn't cover me.
Well, what if you just had a policy that did?
I could. I don't know that they would allow me to do that, but if I were to transition to my own brokerage, I would absolutely be practicing law as well.
Well, I don't think you can ever turn off being a lawyer. So
No, you can't.
as
You
long as
can't.
as long as you know your boundaries that your broker set and the ethics and the insurance restrictions that you have, I think you could walk that line a little bit carefully, even more carefully than some of the realtors in town, which I
Right.
think further sets you apart.
It does. It does.
You're not just filling out forms. I mean, so for instance, how does thinking like a lawyer influence your real estate negotiations?
Well, I want to cover my butt in all places, and so when I negotiate it, when I draw up a contract, I think of things I think that other people may not think of. I think of terrible scenarios, which is what you're trained to do as
Yeah.
a lawyer, and I try to prevent those. And in negotiations, I know what I'm talking about, and I know the consequences. So the other, often it works.
So we may have touched briefly on this in your introduction, but this transition from practicing law into real estate, what truly led you to that?
Well, I practiced law for 10 years in New York State, and then we moved to Florida in 1995 with 3 little kids. My youngest was 6 weeks when we moved, and my husband had taken the bar the year before. They'd given the firm that he worked for at that time, Harder, Seacrest, and Emery, wanted him to move down to Florida. So he took the bar. He took a course, the Barbary course, and took it, passed it. So we moved down. We were renting a place in Monterey where we still live.
Wow.
Yeah.
Probably worth 20 times what you paid for it.
Well, we were renting, and then we built a home in the first year once we
Oh, okay.
realized we were staying. Um,
So maybe only 10 times what you paid for it.
yeah, it's worth a few. But so I studied for the bar, with 3 little kids. I didn't take a bar course, and then I took it over on the East Coast, and my husband came with me because I was still nursing the baby. But it was important to me to get my bar done as quickly as possible. And I did apply for a few full-time jobs after we'd been here for a year or two, after I'd passed the bar. But I realized I was pretty busy with my 3 young kids, 6, 4, and newborn. So I did some legal research and writing. I offered my services. I had some contacts, and I did some research and writing for Jerry Berry and Don Day 30 years ago.
Yeah, dinosaurs in the industry. I'm
Yes.
sure anyone listening to this who's a lawyer in Collier County knows those names well.
Yes. So I did a little bit of that, but it was very difficult because I had no daycare. So that was at the end of the day, I would try to do that, or I would get a little bit of daycare so I could go down to the library, to the Collier County Bar Association library, and use it. But I ended up becoming much more of a volunteer in the schools with my children. I also, after being in our house, we built our house, so that took a couple years. So I was kind of busy the first 2 years we were here, getting the bar, finding a house, or building a house.
Which is more challenging than finding a house.
It is, but it was. I learned so much. I mean, with real estate, I mean, I followed it. We lived in the neighborhood, so I was over there every day, picking up garbage from the contractors would leave behind, but also, learning tie beams and roof trusses, and just the construction here is very different from a lot of northern people that come down.
Yeah, there's less wood frames here.
Oh, well, we hope there's no wood frames.
Yeah, there's a few left.
There's a couple in Monterey. But anyway, I was feeling very insular, and I just thought I need to be part of the community. I'm getting too wrapped up in myself and my house and my kids. So I knew somebody who was doing Collier Harvest. So that was actually my first volunteer work here that I started maybe 2 years after. And I did it for about 15 years, which is a great organization. I don't know if you're familiar with Collier Harvest, but they pick up day-old or, expired baked goods, food from I did it from Publix at River Chase, and then again, then we were transferred to Costco, and then you would drop it off at Costco. I dropped everything at Macedonia Baptist Church in the Fifth Area North area. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that.
Well, I'm familiar with the concept of so I didn't know what Collier Harvest did. But when I
Yes.
was in law school, I remembered we used to get all the food from Panera Bread. And it was the baked goods. And there was one day a week that we were able to get a big garbage bag full of all of them. And whoever got to the office first for the moot court team would get their first pick at that bag of baked goods. So I was sure I would get the cookies and the cinnamon rolls out. That was something I always looked forward to.
Well, I did bring my youngest along on those trips with me.
And around how old was your youngest at the time?
Oh, he was in the car seat, so he was still under 2, or
Okay.
about 2, I would guess. And so he did it till he went to preschool with me.
That must have been really nice
And
to
it
have
was
him there.
every Friday. And then I found another, it got to be a lot if you go on vacation to try and find someone to cover. So I found another woman to share that volunteer work with me. And we would do every other and swap off. But, he was my little buddy. And so I'm hoping that it wore off on him. I know it did. He's a great kid, too.
How old is he now?
He's 30. I just went and saw him.
And does he live? He lives in Washington.
He's in the state of Washington, in Bellingham, which is about 2 hours north of Seattle.
Okay,
And
that's
he
a
loves
beautiful area
Oh,
there.
it is.
What's that? What's that
unbelievable.
mountain range? That's really is it Rainier?
No, well, maybe, but we didn't go there. The Cascades are close. We went up to Canada, up to Vancouver and beyond, and it's gorgeous.
We did an Alaskan cruise last summer, and Victoria was the only stop in Canada. I imagine it wasn't far from there.
No, it's not far from there at all, actually.
There's a lot of history in that part of the country.
There's a ferry boat over to Victoria
Okay.
from the area he lives in. So,
Well, it's much
Anyway.
different scenery than Florida.
yes.
But so over
So
10 years with Collier
Harvest.
Harvest.
Yeah.
And
And then I also, and then this was in the schools, I volunteered. I was always the class mom. I was always the team mom. I just couldn't help myself. So then I also, the teachers, one of my son's teachers wanted me to substitute because it was always hard to find a substitute that knew the kids, that they trusted.
yeah.
So I was a substitute teacher. I started when my youngest was in 2nd grade. And I did it in middle school as well. I didn't do high school ever. I did volunteer there, but I never substitute taught there.
That's a whole different animal there.
It is.
And now you really have to be a true educator to substitute in a high school.
I would think so.
And by true educator, I mean with a license or the degree and also some hands-on experience with high school students.
Yes. But you get that when you have kids.
Yes.
So I was kind of following my youngest's path. So I had the other two ahead of him that I kind of was clued in as to what behavior would happen. But
Well, and so the transition to real estate was a natural progression, but also gave you more of that work-life balance that you needed.
yes. Well, so I was substituting once my kids were gone. Then I taught GED for Collier County School District to adult ed a couple days a week. And that was actually pretty fulfilling. I taught math because I was pretty good at math in high school, and that's
Right.
what they're
High school math's different from college math.
sure is. So I did that just for a year, and then they did lose their funding. So that's when I was kind of like, my mother had passed, my father had passed long before that. So I didn't have those duties. I was helping out a bit with my mom, and I didn't know what to do. So I applied to a few legal jobs. I didn't really want to work for a firm and be the new associate and be in that kind of time.
And
crunch.
around what year did you make this transition to
This
real
was
estate?
2015.
Okay.
So 2015, I was mopping my floor, and my mother came to me and said, "Do real estate. It's so much fun." My mom didn't have a college degree, and my father was so proud of her and that she went into real estate, was very successful. She started when I was a senior in high school.
Still in New York?
In New York State, in
Okay.
Hamburg, which is south of Buffalo, close to the Bills Stadium,
Okay.
close to Orchard Park. And she was very successful, and she came to me and said, "Sell real estate." And I need people, so I needed to have interaction. I just can't be in my home watching over my children, adult children.
Yeah.
So once I realized I didn't even need to take the course with my bar still in good standing, I thought, well, this is really meant for me.
Yeah.
So I signed up for the test right away, and it was maybe 3 weeks out. Got the book, went over to Barnes & Noble, got the book.
And you hit the market at, the earlier the better, but 2015 was actually a really good time to enter because you saw not one, but two spells of double-digit
Well, that was the height.
increases.
So I was a little too early to kind of hit it. I mean, I had a few transactions, but I was really just building in 2015, but I saw that it was at the height. So I saw a little bit of a dip, and then Hurricane Irma hit. I had a transaction that was actually my most difficult transaction, one that hit during Irma, and it was actually a house swap, a house in Livingston Woods and a house in Monterey, and the owners were swapping.
The hurricane hit during the pendency of the contract.
It did.
Yeah,
It did.
I remember those days. It was 2017, September,
Yes.
October.
Mm-hmm. And so the house in Livingston Woods really took, the lands, the trees, the number of trees down, the cage, the pool. It was quite a difficult transaction, but we got it done. And during that time, then the market was slow, and that's when I studied for my broker's license because I'd been in for 2 years already.
Well, real estate has has its own rhythm. So I want to talk about specifically to Collier County and what really makes the Collier County real estate market unique.
Well, for me, it's the seasonal residents. That's who I mostly work for. And it's a different world. I still sell east of 41, but it's usually in a golf community. I don't have a lot of new buyers, but the community is unique in the amount of wealthy buyers we have, the luxury and the luxury that's coming, that's being built from everything that got torn down from Ian.
Yeah, it's coming back with vengeance. I mean, it has been for the last couple of years. But so you have golf, luxury, seasonality. I don't think there's too many areas of the country that have all three of those
Right.
forces at play. So I think it makes it a really good place to sell real estate. But if you go to try to sell in a market that doesn't have that, you can't as easily relate to the buyers and the sellers because you haven't lived in those other areas.
Right.
And I doubt you'll be going to New York State after living here as long as you have.
I think about my mother selling real estate in Hamburg, and she would have 40 transactions in a year, and they were all under 100,000.
Wow. And she was crushing it back
She
then.
was crushing it.
Well, that's when I probably think 25,000 a year was the equivalent of 100 today.
Right.
Something like that. So I'm sure she still did really well.
She did. My father was very proud.
Well, so now you've got more than 10 years under your belt with experience in two really changing tides over that 10 years. How have client expectations evolved over those years?
Well, they're expecting more. I think the buyer broker compensation and all of that disclosure is great and was great for buyers, but now they're more cognizant of what you're doing. And sellers are as well, because they are usually, in my cases, they're usually picking up the buyer broker compensation as well.
So the expectations are higher.
Yes.
The compensation in some cases is lower. So does that mean you're actually earning what you keep, right? As opposed to getting a windfall, which is not the case throughout the course of a year. There may be one or two where you work less.
Right.
But I think the common perception of the community is that real estate agents are overpaid. And I completely disagree with that.
Well, when last year was a terrible year. I had a quarter with no transactions. So when Paychex calls me up and says, "What am I reporting for my payroll?" and I say 0, this has been a bad quarter. That's what real estate is. So you have to. So I do enjoy everything that I'm doing in it. Sometimes I get stressed out, but for the most part, all of the pieces I enjoy. I enjoy learning the technology. So that's, great for me. I enjoy reading the contracts because I feel like I'm practicing law, but
Right.
I'm not.
You're filling that void.
Filling that void. So even when I don't make money, I still am enjoying it. I think of my mother every day.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Well, you have a good combination of the past that you took to have great conversations with family members, extended family members, which really can translate into your conversations with buyers and sellers. Speaking of buyers and sellers, what advice would you give to buyers and sellers? And I realize this may be different, but those that are navigating today's market in 2026 and beyond.
With respect to a real estate professional?
Well, whatever comes to mind.
Well, with respect to a real estate professional, I think buyers and sellers should be looking for somebody that they get along well with, that they trust, and that they can trust to bring them through the transaction, to tell them all of the scenarios, and then help them decide what the best scenario is for them in both buying and in selling. So I try not to push anyone. I try to present everything. I point out all negatives, and
Lay it all out for them.
I do.
Well, so buyers' expectations have been changing at the same time as sellers, but it's from a different vantage point. Do you find that the sellers are starting to be more comfortable taking your advice on what to list the property at?
Yes, I do believe sellers are listening more over the last year. We've had, I think that the log jam is starting to clear.
By logjam, you mean inventory?
I mean inventory, and the seller's not willing to negotiate. I think they now realize They need to negotiate if they really want to sell. Some aren't selling. I haven't had as many listings. I've had way more buyers, both last year and this year. Um, and I did lose a listing to, someone who thought that they could do it really cheaply. And they did do okay. Their house was okay. So,
I think that's the exception, though.
yeah, I think so too. And I in our market with our customers, I don't think that is generally going to be accepted.
Well, navigating expectations is a moving target. You know, what you hear on TV or radio or even conversations with others is that it's a buyer's market or a seller's market, but you don't really hear about the transition times. That's the hardest time because you don't know when. And then also
When it actually flips.
yeah, but the community that you're buying in also is, they say location, 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 but that applies not just to the price points, but to the uniqueness of the property and the buyer that's looking for the home in that area.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you have some that are looking for schools, some that are looking for golf courses, some that are looking for just brand new construction that's convenient to downtown.
Right. Right.
Everybody, I shouldn't say everybody. A lot of people come here from out of state wanting to be close to the water, and then they look at the price points when you're on one side of 41 versus the other. They're like, okay, I don't mind being 15 minutes away.
Right. But do have some buyers, or have over the last year, coming back to the beach. So we had a lot of people leave, people that had been on the beach for a long time.
After 2022.
After Ian in 2022. But they are starting to come back, which is good because
is good.
And they're also building new construction, which makes them more comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
I also think all of the condo laws that make everything more clear with respect to the milestone inspections and, the actual integrity of the building has also helped. And the reserves have kind of caught up in a lot of the condo buildings. So I see the market just getting healthier this year.
I do too. And for someone that's in the field every day like yourself, I think that carries a lot more weight for people hearing that message. What's something that people misunderstand about the Naples real estate market?
I'm not sure.
All right. Well, so it sounds like you're doing a really good job informing them and educating them. At least
I
the
am.
ones you talk
Well,
to.
one thing, they get confused with the taxes. They always, what are the taxes? What are the taxes? I said, it doesn't matter what the taxes are on this place when a buyer is looking at homes. And then they want to know what the taxes are on each individual property. So I do explain that. So that is a one that they don't really understand. The construction is a little bit different. Where's all the wood trim around the windows?
Yeah.
When I moved into my house, that's one thing I was like, where's all that? They're black.
Yeah. Well, and then you have to explain to them it's to their benefit to not have any wood
Right.
there. They can always dress it up with a little wood, but as long as
Cement,
the foundation is there.
Well, let's talk a little bit about your community.
Well, let's talk a little bit about your community involvement. So I know you've vested heavily your time and resources into the League.
The League Club of Naples. TLC for short, we call it.
How did you become involved in the League Club? And also, I want you to just briefly, in one or two sentences, tell people who don't know what the League Club does, what's the purpose.
Okay. The League Club is an organization in Naples, and anyone that does community work and fundraising, and it's 600 women who have been in junior leagues that have a similar purpose anywhere in the world. So I became involved about 3 years ago, and it was actually one of my clients from New Jersey who I worked with for 3 years before they bought, and so they kind of became friends.
Mm-hmm.
And she was looking to how she could meet new friends when she moved here, and so she joined the League Club a few years before and then told me, you have to join. Well, she's a bigwig there already because she does so much work. But so that's why I joined, and I joined partially because I had stopped my volunteer work when I started into real estate, trying to just go 100% in real estate, and I missed it. And I also missed friends that, when your kids are in sports and you have kids around, you automatically have people, you know, when you go to all your kid events. So I kind of had lost a close friend group and my volunteer work. So I thought that would fit both, and it has. It's been great. I have a new group of friends that I see in addition to my old friends. And I've worked on Naples Tables, which is their big fundraiser for the last 3 years. And this year they had Vern Yip, who's, I guess, from Trading Spaces,
Okay.
speak. And there are about 600 women. There are 60 designers. I was on the designer acquisition committee. So I approached 30 designers, and we needed 60 total, but there was a full committee.
It's a big
And
number.
they volunteer their beautiful table linens and dishes and scapes, and it's amazing. It's an incredible event. The tables are amazing. It's visually just
Well,
wonderful, and they made about $800,000 last year. And then there's a separate committee that researches grants every year, and they give out grants every year. And there were 39 grants.
and it's my understanding that they give away everything that they take in.
Well, they do have, I don't know if they gave away more than they made, but they also have sponsors, and they do have a fund. I'm not exactly sure
Okay.
how much is retained, but they give away about what they make.
Well, what has that organization meant to you personally?
It's meant friends, volunteer work, and I feel part of a community.
That's good
The
stuff.
Naples
That should be
community, yeah.
encouraging for anyone listening today that's not part of a community organization that
They really
gives
do
back.
make you realize this is what life is about.
Well, they say that
interacting with
people
people.
are happiest when they're giving. Their dopamine levels actually go up when you give something.
Right.
So that's a
Right.
cheap way without medicine to boost your dopamine. How do professional women's organizations shape local leadership?
Well, I think they make women feel empowered.
Which spills through into all the different things that the women in our community do for the community, for their families, for their friends, and in some cases for the companies that they work for. I
Mhm.
think you have to, you don't really see it, what happens behind the scenes. What impact are you most proud of through that involvement with the League Club?
Well, I guess it would be my most recent. I spent the most time on designer acquisition, so um, I would say I'm most proud of that. But I'm also proud of the fact that I've made friends and feel like
You
I'm
found your happy
part of
place
it.
that
Mhm.
really checks a lot of boxes for you.
Well, especially for this phase of life, I kind of feel like I had 3 phases: my education and legal career, and then my mom and volunteer with schools, and now I'm real estate. But I was missing that part of community and giving back.
Mhm.
So
Well, those are a lot of empowering things that you've talked about. And I want to, your community involvement also spills over to the Collier County Bar Association, which is what brought you here today. You've been sponsoring them for years. And so I want to talk a little bit about that. But, in terms of real estate, what really keeps you passionate about the work that you do today?
well, I see happy customers, buyers or sellers, and I have one actually listing under contract right now where the seller was very pessimistic about anything happening, and and I was able actually to negotiate with a lot of junk in the contract, but something close to her asking price, which is what she wanted, and it looks like it's all going to fall together. So when I see people that are happy with the results that I'm able to get for them,
It's
it
rewarding.
is rewarding.
What advice would you give to attorneys or really professionals that are considering a career pivot like you did?
Well, if you want to do real estate, you have to like people. And you have to want to talk to people all the time because they will call you or text you 24/7, and you live with it. You live with
So-
it on vacations. So it depends on what job you're going to pivot to, but make sure that your personality is in tune with the new job that you want to be successful at.
I think that's excellent advice because a lot of people just get their real estate license and think they're going to make a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
But then, maybe one indicator that it's not a good pivot is if you find yourself complaining a lot about talking to people or answering the phone,
Right.
then you might have to look for something behind the scenes.
And there are things I do try to set boundaries. I try not to be on a text mode with my clients until we're really at a time where you have to be, instead of emails. I like emails, I like a file, I like a record. So
That must be the lawyer in you.
that's the lawyer in me.
I teach a class for Florida Realtors called How to Stay Out of Real Estate Jail, and a complete transaction file is one of those key things.
Yes.
Document everything.
I love to cover my butt.
And it's hard. I can't tell you how many times I've gotten strings of snapshots or screenshots of text messages to try to
Oh.
pull all that together.
I know. I don't like to text anything substantive.
Yeah. So preserving the record. Well, so I want to ask one final question here. When you think about legacy, what does that mean for you personally and professionally?
Well, how people are going to remember me. Professionally, I hope they remember my exceptional service. And, I truly want to help people, achieve what they want in real estate. As a person, as a mother, I hope my children, and I think they did see, that I care about the community, that I care about other people, that other people are what makes life positive.
Yeah.
I can't, my kids would always joke because I was the one talking to everybody at the airport. I look at everyone, I talk to everyone. I can't help it, but I need people, and I think everybody does to a certain extent.
I think it's nice. You're very genuine when you answer that question, and I think that comes through probably in how you practice and deal with your clients, customers, and hopefully some of them will listen to this podcast today.
Well, thank you, Matt.
And so I want to thank you for sharing your journey with us here, and also for your dual perspective on legal and real estate, and also being a mom and being involved in the community. I think a lot of women would aspire to be in your position and follow that track that you followed. So thanks again for sponsoring the Collier County Bar Association.
Absolutely.
And we'll wrap up here. This is the Collier County Bar Association podcast, where we bring together law, life, and leadership beyond the briefcase. So thanks again for listening. Thanks again, Catherine, for coming on.
Thank you, Matt.